This is how most people see Mark Cuban.
An entrepreneur, minority owner of the NBA's Dallas Mavericks, co-founder of Cost Plus Drug Company. Please welcome Mark Cuban.
What was your biggest loss?
My biggest loss was probably $1 million. There was this company that had, what the hell was it called? But you would blow into it and it did alcohol detection. And it was a great idea and actually a decent product. But like the guy, Charles, I look at his Instagram and he'd be in Bora Bora.
The personification of the American dream. An ambitious man that began his entrepreneurial career at 12, selling garbage bags to buy basketball shoes, selling stamps and coins, and running side hustles like a chain letter business. As he got older, he realized that school was just a waste of time for his dreams of becoming a successful entrepreneur. So, he dropped out of high school and took business classes at night at Pittsburgh University, where he eventually became a student. Continuing his business ventures, he started his own company called Micro Solutions after college. Micro Solutions was a software reseller and system integrator, which Mark Cuban sold for $6 million in 1990. But this wasn't his biggest break. He co-founded Broadcast.com, an internet radio company, which Yahoo purchased for $5.7 billion in 1999, making him a billionaire by the age of 40. Today, he is known as the owner of the Dallas Mavericks and as the investor on Shark Tank. You might now think that this journey sounds like he did everything right, but that's not the case. However, throughout his journey from high school dropout to billionaire, he still made some mistakes. And by mistakes, I mean big mistakes that could have brought him over $3 billion. But how exactly did Mark Cuban lost $3.5 billion? Nowadays, almost everyone is familiar with Uber. It has revolutionized transportation by making it easy to get a ride quickly and pay without cash, changing how people travel in cities worldwide. Today, Uber is worth $140 billion. But obviously this wasn't always the case. See, Travis Kalanick, the co-founder of Uber, and Mark Cuban knew each other quite well. Travis Kalanick had a company before Uber called Red Swoosh, where Mark Cuban had invested $1.7 million. A file-sharing company that was sold for $18.7 million in 2007. Everyone made a little bit of money, so everyone was happy. Because of the positive experience of doing business with Travis Kalanick, Mark Cuban was pleased. So 2 years later, Travis came up with a new idea to present to Mark Cuban, a ride-sharing company called Uber. Mark loved the idea so much, but there was one problem. See, here is the problem. Travis Kalanick offered Mark Cuban the chance to invest $250,000 at a $10 million valuation. But Mark turned it down because he thought that there is no way that a ride-sharing company was worth $10 million. Another reason he said was that Uber would have to deal with all the taxi cab commissions that are going to try to get Uber out of business. After that, Mark Cuban made an offer that was probably his worst decisions ever. He offered him $250,000 but at a $5 million valuation. After this, Travis never came back and found someone else to accept his offer. So this means if Mark had accepted Travis's initial offer, he would have received a 2.5% stake in Uber for just $250,000. This 2.5% stake would be worth over $3.5 billion today. Today, Mark laughs about it and says that it was his worst decision ever. Even though this was a big mistake, it still wasn't the only mistake he did throughout his career. See, everybody knows the TV show Shark Tank, a show where entrepreneurs present their business idea to wealthy investors, hoping to secure money in exchange for a share of their company. Mark Cuban is one of these investors, seeking new opportunities to invest in. There were several deals on Shark Tank that could have brought them millions of dollars. The most popular example is Ring, where the owner was seeking $700,000 for a 10% stake. All of the investors, including Mark Cuban, turned down the offer. 5 years later, in 2018, Amazon acquired Ring for $1 billion. This means that his 10% stake would have been worth $100 million with just a $700,000 investment. An offer they all regret missing. But let's talk about an investment where Mark Cuban actually invested but later regretted. In one episode, there was a product called the breathometer.
Breathometer.
the world's first smartphone breathalyzer. Simply plug it into the smartphone. Within a matter of seconds, you'll be able to know what your breath alcohol level is.
After a night out drinking, you plug in the device to your phone, and it tells you if you're too drunk to drive. Mark Cuban invested in it.
Here's the deal. $1 million, $500,000 from Mark Cuban for 15%, and $500,000 from the rest of the sharks. We're going to split it for a total of 30% for $1 million. And the power of Shark Tank. What are you going to do?
I accept.
All right.
But later called it his worst investment ever. Here is the reason why. So Charles, the owner of Breathometer, may have thought he had already made it after receiving the money. Mark looked at Charles's Instagram and saw him partying in Vegas and Bora Bora with all the investment money. Mark was furious and texted Charles, "What are you doing?" Charles responded, "Oh, nothing. I'm just networking." Soon after, all of Mark's money was gone. But the worst was yet to come because in 2017, the Federal Trade Commission filed a complaint against Charles. The reason why was that the breathometer did not actually work as advertised. According to the FTC, it lacked in scientific evidence to support its advertising claims. After that, the company got forced to fully refund every customer that bought a device. This marked the end of Breathometer, and Mark Cuban's money was all gone. Overall, Mark Cuban lost more money than he has made from Shark Tank. But he couldn't care less because, despite the setbacks, he remains the richest of all the investors on Shark Tank. But Mark didn't just have bad decisions in the business world. He also made one big mistake during his time with the Dallas Mavericks. A mistake that still haunts him to this day. Back in 2004, Mark Cuban had the choice of keeping NBA Hall of Famer Steve Nash or letting him go. The reason why is because Mark got the advice to release him. He had been injured the year before and his minutes were declining dramatically. So the doctor and the coach told him that he may have issues. So he made Steve Nash an offer that was less than what he offered other Dallas Mavericks stars, such as Dirk Nowitzki. They failed to resign him because the Phoenix Suns came in and gave Steve Nash a better offer, which he accepted. The problem here is that after Steve Nash joined the Phoenix Suns, he became an MVP in back-to-back seasons. After 20 years, Mark Cuban says this was probably his worst decision ever, and he regrets it to this day. He talks about it very often, underlining his regret. As you can see, Mark Cuban has made a lot of mistakes throughout his life. But he does not really see them as failures. He sees them as a valuable lesson. Perhaps this is why he is where he is today, ranked at 563rd place among the richest people in the world. If you want to know something about the person ranked first as the richest in the world, check out the description.